going, you guys? Rasati out here in Singapore, and as always, thank you so much for joining me on the Night Owl Podcast. You guys, whether it's late night or early morning or just somewhere in between, you guys know that I'm gonna come on here. I'm gonna record this podcast just because I want to think out my thoughts almost out loud, right? I want to talk about the things that are going through my mind, the things that have turned my head of late. I have always saved posts on Instagram. I have shared posts on Instagram. I've archived a lot of stuff. I've saved things all over the place. If nothing else, I am an information whore. I use Pinterest in much the same way, and up until recently, I didn't even realize that I could actually use it for my own business, but rather I've been stockpiling recipes and workout videos and all kinds of inspiration for arts, decor, sewing, knitting, crocheting, pretty much everything under the sun, because I like stuff. I want to do things. I want to learn. So I'm constantly on the hunt for the next cool thing and projects that I could try around the house. Cookie recipes, desserts that I haven't tried before, trying really hard to like create restaurant type food at home so I don't have to spend as much money in a restaurant, and I have the privacy of my house too. So lots to do, lots to consider, and I like my life like that. You know, I stockpile a lot of stuff and I'm okay. I'm okay telling you that I hoard information. And as bad as it may seem, I've stopped paying to hoard information, at least. I'm just keeping them around because I want the inspiration later on. I want to be able to say that I have it somewhere if I ever needed it. So now, today, I'm going back through the treasure trove of information, and this one happens to come from the saved file on my Instagram account. And I don't know if you remember, there was a time where you could actually create collections of saved things. So I went through the collection that's labeled, what is it labeled? Oh my gosh, I think it's labeled motivation. And if I remember correctly, the quote itself comes from Arthur Amish. Now, I'm a fan of Amish Tripathi and his works, the Siva trilogy, and then, of course, his Rama trilogy as well. It's not really a trilogy. It's going to be more than that, I think. But right now, he only has 3 books out. So he has Ram, he has Sita, and he has Ravana. But there's going to be more, I know, in the future. So I started following him when I first started reading the books, and I came across this quote that I had saved in a collection. And the quote says, "Weak people never admit that they are responsible for their own state. They always blame either circumstance or other people." Now, I want to challenge that a little bit. I don't think it's weak. I don't think it's weak at all. I think it's a part of your evolution. I think it's a part of us kind of learning that we have more control over our lives than we think. I think as children, we always try to pretend like it wasn't our fault. Like I'll go through situations with my daughter where she accidentally broke something or dismantled something while she was picking at it and didn't realize that it was going to break apart or fall apart. And when I ask her what happened, she'd be like, "I don't know. It just did it." And I'm thinking, yeah, but it doesn't have a life of its own. It doesn't have any like ability to get up and walk away or break itself. Somebody had to force it. So you're going to tell me the truth or not? So I know better as an adult, but as a child, she's thinking, "Oh no, it kind of just happened on its own. Oh no, I am not associated with an action that caused this reaction." So I think a lot of it is just a way of maturing. You realize at some point that it's not because of everybody else anymore. And if it was because of everybody else, it means that the power does not lie with me to change my circumstance. The power is with everybody else, where the problems are. So it's in that regard that I feel like a lot of people suddenly realize, hey, some people have a problem for every solution. Some people aren't trying to solve their circumstance. They like their circumstance, even though they will never admit it. I've come across a lot of people who will proclaim that they are depressed, and I'm not by any means diminishing the fact that depression is a big thing. It's very difficult to get yourself out of, but there are some people who will use that title and be very comfortable staying in that place. Now, they may not be happy with their current life circumstance. They may be fighting the fact that they are not pleased with where they are. They don't like what's going on. They did not foresee being in this place where what they thought in their heads would be success and what is their reality would be so far apart. But the fact that they're not willing to get up and do something about it, as in take matters into their own hands, take the responsibility back from wherever it is that they think the problems are coming from, and make slight adjustments so they can get out of that situation, that's the part that I get worried about. So I think it's more a maturity level. It's part of the evolution process, like I said. I don't think it's weak at all. I think it's just a matter of the way you see the world, your paradigm, your rules for how the world works. There was a time a very long time, in fact, that I thought that it was my mom's fault that I was this way because she left me when I was 5, and so I was just this put upon, abandoned victim, and it's because of her that I am the way that I am. So she has to change in order for me to change, and that's not the case. At some point, I realized what she did to me was years and years and years ago. Why I am the way I am now? That's on me. Because if I don't go and address it with her and find out why she did what she did, and if I don't respect the fact that, hey, it happened once a long time ago, or it happened a couple times a long time ago, and it's not happening now in my face at the moment, I have no reason to blame her anymore. Now it's on me to evolve. Now it's on me to realize, hey, she abandoned me a few times in my life, but I'm not being abandoned daily, so there's no reason for me to relive that stuff daily. I'm choosing to at that point. There was a time where I was feeling like, oh my gosh, my husband rules everything. I can't get away from it. I don't know what to do with myself. Like everything I have to do has to be run by him because he's very possessive. He's very jealous. I don't know how to disengage from that. I don't know how to respectfully find my own independence again and be my own person. And it was a matter of me realizing that, yes, he expects all of these check-ins and all of this justification for where I am, what I'm doing, where I spend money and everything. But what he doesn't realize is it's up to me whether I want to give that to him or not. I can say no and face his wrath if I wanted to. I could say no and leave him if I wanted to, but it was like the lesser of two evils. Where can I escape the most amount of pain or reduce the amount of pain that I would have to feel? And sometimes it's the path of least resistance. So when I chose to be a victim and give him the power over my life, it was because I did not want to face what might be punishment for having disappointed him or disobeyed him or behaved in a manner that was not befitting what he expected his wife to behave like. You know what I'm saying? So there was a place where I thought that it's his fault that I am where I am because I chose to marry him and that was my only fault. But then after that, he just ruled over me. But that's not the case. You have a choice in every step of the way. Now, it's hard sometimes when you're very, very afraid for your life. It's hard sometimes when you don't see how you can get away or disentangle your life from the people that are causing you grief or strife or chaos or whatever, the people who bring you drama. So it becomes very complicated at that point, but I need people to realize that they always have a choice. And even if it's a small choice that you make that day, maybe they force you to eat. I had a client once upon a time that told me that, her parents expected her to eat a lot because that's how they felt better about themselves when they weren't feeling so good. And she was going through a tough time and they thought, let me just feed her. And she was feeling worse and worse because she kept gaining weight and she wanted to feel good about herself. She was going through a breakup. She was trying her level best to kind of figure things out. And the food was not helping. So I told her, look, what would happen if you said, no, I'm full right now. I'm okay. That's enough. And she thought, no, I can't because they would be offended. They would feel bad. They would feel like I was insulting them. And I was like, really? Are you sure that's the case, though? You could say it's enough because otherwise they would continue feeding you. You'd never stop eating. Like, you have to finish the meal at some point. So what would happen? And she was like, I don't know. Okay, let me try. And so when she started taking back little bits of power like that, where she said, no, that's okay. I'm full now. Thank you. They learned that her limit had changed, that she was able to speak up for herself, and they let go a little bit of the expectation. Yeah, probably the first few times they were kind of like, huh, what do you mean? You always eat this much. But eventually they got used to the idea because she kept consistently drawing that line and telling them, no, it's enough. That thank you. I appreciate it. So she was graceful and she was respectful and she took back the power and it worked for her. But there comes a time where you have to stop saying, oh no, they won't understand. They won't listen. They won't fix it. They won't change. They won't. Well, guess what? It's not in your power to change them. It's not in your circle of control to be able to change someone else. You can ask politely and you can advise them and you can explain your position and hope they understand. But at some point, if they don't, you got to be ready to walk away and do what you got to do. Because ultimately, it's your happiness and your comfort and your safety and your survival. They're all looking out for themselves too. And it's not a bad thing for you to stand up for yourself, although it feels uncomfortable because it's not the way us Asians are raised. People will see us as disrespectful or too bold or too educated. It's the problem with women these days. They know too much, right? We hear all of that all the time. But in that regard, it's just a matter of maturity. At some point, you feel like you don't have the power. At some point, you feel like, yeah, it is other people's fault. And eventually, when you keep waiting for people to change and you find that they're not changing and your life is not getting better and the time is running by slowly, you realize that I don't have all day to wait for them either. I'm going to get up and I got to go do what I got to do. If I can't find a bathroom where I'm used to going, if I have to pee or whatever, if I use my own bathroom and I find that my daughter's in there or my uncle's in there, at some point, I'm going to have to get up and go find another bathroom. My mom's bathroom is always free, right? If I wait and wait and wait because it's their fault, right? I'm going to end up making a mess. But I do have the choice to find somewhere else to do it, some other way to do it. If I run out of money and I'm waiting for a client to pay me and I keep chasing them, they're not actually they're not writing me back. I can't put all my eggs into that one basket and be like, oh, well, it's their fault that I starved this week. I can't afford to do that because I have kids to feed. So what I have to do instead is, okay, well, I'm waiting for them to pay me because they owe me money. I've done the work, they owe me the payment. But in the meantime, I'm going to find my own way to make sure I eat today because that is an essential function. I need to be able to eat to survive. And it's the same thing with life circumstances and your feelings. It's the same thing with when you find people that don't appreciate your time or take you for granted or are using you somehow. If you realize those things, right, it would be really great to put in the effort to make sure that you get what you need out of that situation. For instance, if you find somebody that, you love very much and they drain you constantly, they put you down, they tell you off, you feel miserable when they're around, right? What you need to do is let them know that they make you feel miserable. So maybe they have the chance to change it in case they didn't know, right? So you let them know, you inform them. And when they don't change, it's up to you to remove that person from your immediate vicinity or reduce the amount of time that you spend with them so it's not always that they're like draining you, so you can recover, so you have time to recover, right? So I think it's a maturity thing. And yes, it is a part of life. I think everybody goes through a phase where they're like, you know what, it's not my fault, it's their fault. It's not my fault that, work doesn't appreciate me. It's because my boss doesn't understand, or my colleagues keep stealing the spotlight or claiming my work as their own. But at some point, you're going to have a talk with that person. At some point, you're going to have to realize, hey, I've waited for them to change and my life isn't getting any better. It's up to me to do something. Because ultimately, your life is your responsibility. So I hope this makes sense, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I really don't think it's because people are weak. I think it's because they're uninformed. They don't understand the power of their own decisions, how much power they have in their hands to change their stars. You've seen so many movies where they're talking about, the stars, the fate. But it's not the fate. At some point, you got to get up and go get what you want to get. If you want it, go get it. If you want to build it, go build it. You don't necessarily have to wait for permission. You don't have to wait for someone to give you the space to do what you need to do. Sometimes you got to elbow your way through. So I hope this makes sense, you guys. If you have any questions, comments, if you're upset with me because I don't think they're weak, let me know. I don't care. That's fine. Let me know what you think. I want to hear from you. But in the meantime, give people the grace to kind of mature at their own pace. Sometimes you can tell them what you see because you've been through it once before, and sometimes they're not ready to hear what you got to say. It doesn't matter. It's their journey, it's their timeline, and if they've got to take a little bit more time to realize that they do have the power in their hands, the best you can do is be patient and let them figure it out. Please, by all means, if you can shortcut their learning journey, do that. But if they're not in a place to listen, there's not much else you can do. You got to let them do it. You got to let them go through it. You hear me? So give people around you the grace to get there on their own. And just find a way to be supportive in the meantime if you can. And if you can't, that's cool. Let them be. You hear what I'm saying? Because you learned it on your own timeline too. I love you guys and I hope this helps. Bye.